Basically, your whole mindset is your operating system.
Yes.
And how often do you upgrade?
Sure.
We live a pattern, and the pattern was scripted to us prior to the age of 7.
Yeah.
Beliefs and values control our lives. Right. So a belief can be an invisible handbrake.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Buzzing. Mariska, so excited, and there's so many things that you're touching on that I think the listeners need to hear. So many things that's going to change their lives. I know there's so much things that I've experienced with small business owners that they need to deal with, people that goes through burnout and everything. And I'm just so excited for you to be here, and thank you so much for being here. And so if we're going over now and we're speaking about mindset, right, because that's, I think, one of the most important things for us as business people is what is our mindset in terms of how we do things, right? But our mindset always comes down to what do we believe, right? So what do you think are the things that encourages us to believe that we can do things? And what do you think is the things that actually brings us to a point where we believe that we can't do those specific things?
All right. Thanks for having me. Beliefs and values control our lives. Right. So a belief can be an invisible handbrake.
Yeah.
Those are the invisible rules that we tell ourselves what things are possible and what things are not.
Yes.
And it's normally rooted in past experiences. And limiting beliefs are normally fear-based.
Sure.
So what you believe is what you tell yourself and how you condition yourself. And it's a script that's been written. Either you've written it yourself or it was written for you prior to the age of 7.
Yeah.
So you can change the script.
Yeah.
It's to go back into your subconscious in order to change those beliefs. But there's a process because beliefs are choices. They influence our energy, our relationships.
Yeah.
At the end of the day is to identify, is it a good belief or is it limiting? Is it limiting me? And can I work on this belief? And in totality is, what is my status quo with my mindset? Where am I? Basically, your whole mindset is your operating system.
Yes.
And how often do you upgrade?
Sure.
And if you upgrade your operating system, you stay healthy within your mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't, guess where we're at?
Yeah.
Stuck.
Sure. I mean, that's a crazy way to explain it. And it's our operating system, right? So you mentioned something about like 7 years old. Why is that so important?
So in your formation years, from the moment that you're born, well, some people still believe it whilst being in the womb, until you're 7 years old. That period in time is when you learn everything in your life. Your foundation is being laid. You take all information in as truth. That's also the time in your life which you're still in your hypnotic state. So, I mean, we can go into all of those states eventually, but that's a time when you take everything in as a truth.
Sure.
You don't question things. When mommy says sit, sit. When mommy says eat, eat. Even though from 2 years old, you start to challenge it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Those tantrums and those things. It's like, well, I don't really like what you tell me to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a tantrum. But at the end of the day, I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
So you take information in. If it's disruptive and chaotic, your thinking patterns after the age of 7 will obviously influence how you make decisions in your life.
Wow.
So it's critical to have the foundation laid in a healthy way for each and every child.
That's crazy to think about that. So, because I didn't know that before now, right? That those 7 years are the most important. So when do you have you experience from other people? By what age does it start reflecting the things that people went through from birth, or like you said, in the womb until 7? When do people start acting out and start when does that 7 years actually start affecting them in their decision making and their belief system?
Okay. Teenagers who are most disruptive, it's like rebelling against an early childhood.
Yeah.
That's where it reflects. The other side of that is some teenagers can be very quiet because they are suppressing the trauma if it's been chaotic. And then after school, now they choose a relationship. They choose a codependent, unhealthy relationship, which is toxic because they don't know of anything better. That's the pattern that they've been taught as a child. So they choose the pattern. When you grow older, how do they do their finances?
Yeah.
What happens in a financial system? Do they make wise financial decisions? Are they honest?
Yeah.
Do they pay their taxes?
Yeah.
Even though they look like a normal, civilized, good person, they may be very dishonest in their finances.
Sure.
All those things manifest in behavior. We live a pattern, and the pattern was scripted to us prior to the age of 7.
Yeah.
And the pattern manifests in our behavior and also in how we treat people.
Yeah.
How we treat people now and how we treat people behind the scenes. You hear of narcissism these days. I mean, all sorts of them.
Yeah.
You can have like a COVID narcissist. Quiet, but with subtle manipulation and caging people in. Whilst you would think, oh, wow, this is such a nice person. But that person suffered severe trauma that nobody is aware of, not even themselves at certain points in time.
Yeah.
So, yes, it manifests in decision-making and behavior.
Wow.
Addictions, for example.
Yeah.
You get all sorts of addictions that people don't know about. Like, for example, this relentless scrolling on our attention-seeking digital addictions.
Yeah.
Because it's dopamine hits.
Yes.
Then you have alcohol, which is the thing, smoking, it's a crutch, pornography, all these, even cheating.
Yeah.
I'm emotionally addicted to somebody else because they give me emotional relief.
Yeah.
I need it now. I'm in a partnership. My spouse isn't good enough. She's fighting with me the whole time. So I'll go to somebody else where I can get emotional relief.
Yeah.
Maybe not physical relief per se, maybe that as well. But that's what happens when something traumatic or chaotic has happened to you prior to the age of 7.
Wow. So, and so that's so important to deal with that then, right? Because now you actually need to get to a point like, so I want to improve myself, but now you're first going through that whole rebellic situation and you're going through everything. Because, I mean, for me, my personal story as well, there was at 4 months old, I went to foster care for the first time. So the first 3 years of my life, in and out, I was in foster care. My father was in prison for 2 years and everything. And so for myself, I was always like, I'm going to be a strong child, right? I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to change the environment. But somewhere in high school, I just like completely lost track of everything and completely ended up getting into drugs, drinking. Like for 5 years I was addicted to drugs and alcohol, so it got very messy. And I mean, like what you're saying now as well, you can relate to something like that happening then. So how would you encourage like parents then to really get to a point where they understand how crucial it is for them to raise their children, in the first 7 years in the correct, well, always, but like especially in the first 7 years, the right way?
I'm so happy you asked that question. I'm so happy. Now, let me tell you, as a child, I was raised, children are seen and not heard. Right. Why not? Be present for your child. Let them have their emotions. Allow it.
Yes.
Be present. Nurture it. You know what happens, and I know a lot of people will not agree with me, and that's fine. This is my perception. We do not put children in naughty corners. We do not do that. Why not? Because you're telling this child, go sit in the corner because your anger isn't allowed right now.
Cool.
Instead of, right, you feeling angry right now. Let's deal with it.
Sure.
Children are told, no, you can't be angry. You can't be sad. Go to your room, go cry it out, and then you can come back.
Yes.
We deny them their emotions. we deny them the respect that they should be given. They're children, they're human beings. They're not some sort of creature from alien world.
Exactly.
Treat them like a child with the love and care that they deserve and the respect and a decent human, what should I call this, treatment.
Yeah.
Other than telling them you cannot have this and you cannot have that.
Yeah.
That's absolute nonsense. The other thing is, and you can see I'm feeling very passionate about this, is when babies cry and you get people to say, oh, well, let them cry it out. Listen, if you want a human being in adulthood who suffers from abandonment, then you let that child cry it out.
Yes.
Because children still want to feel loved.
Exactly.
They still want to feel their safety, their security. You pick that child up, you nurture it. They don't have the emotional intelligence to do it themselves yet. You are the parent. You wanted the child. You nurture and care for them to the best of your ability. And if you can't do that, get the support to help you.
Yes.
But don't let the child suffer because of your inability to care for a child in their emotional needs.
Yeah, sure. And I love it. And I love the fact that you are so passionate about it, because we need to be the difference for our children. And we really need to set such an important example to them. We need to show them how it feels to be loved. We need to show them how it feels to be cared for. And I totally agree with the fact that you need to be that safe space for your child. And so that's something that my wife and I also touched on a lot. It's like, we're not going to let our child cry themselves to sleep and everything like that, because for us, we did a little bit of research on that, in the emotional trauma that comes with that was just like insane. So I think it is so important. But now, let's say, for instance, it did happen and people went through all that trauma and everything, and now their mindset is to this point where they are limited in everything that they can do, and they only believe there's certain thing about themselves. How do you get to a point where you can encourage somebody to, or how does somebody change that? How do they start getting to a point again where they actually start loving themselves and where they start believing that they can do more?
Okay. When I consult with somebody, the first thing that I say is, all change starts with being honest with yourself. Don't come sit with me and ask me to ask miracle questions.
Yeah.
And then you're lying to me. You're not even honest with yourself. Because from the honesty point is where we can work into a recovery.
Yes.
I can't help somebody who is in denial. And denial comes from shame or a fear. And shame and fear and guilt. Guilty that I allowed for it to happen.
Yeah.
Shameful that I went through something like that, but it was out of my control.
Yeah.
Right. So we start with that process. I can't change somebody.
Yes.
They need to change themselves. They need to come to the realization, my life is not on the right track.
Yeah.
And that's where I come to a coach. But also, I'm not a healer. I'm future focused.
Yes.
So let me take you where you're at. If you need healing, I will refer you to a counselor or to a psychotherapist or psychologist. Go through your healing and then come back. And then we will focus on your future.
Yes.
Right. We work on your limiting beliefs. We look at how you look at yourself.
Yeah.
And we start with nutrition first.
Yes.
You cannot do anything in your life successfully if you don't live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
If your nutrition is not right. I'm not even talking about movement.
Yes.
Movement is the energy. I mean, I literally need you to look at how you walk into a building.
Yeah.
What does your confidence levels look like? What is your energy in your body? How do you walk like this? Do you walk like that?
Yeah.
Chin up, down. What is your physiology?
Yeah.
So in terms of nutrition, what do you eat? That's the first thing, because I cannot help you if your mind is clogged with rubbish. What do you eat? What do you drink? What's your lifestyle like? How often do you go out and hang out with your friends? What's your social input like? All those things are minor things that have a huge influence on how you change. But let me tell you something real quick. People don't change if they've not experienced a huge or a big traumatic event. Normally, it's the loss of something. The loss of a job, the loss of a spouse, the loss of a relationship, the loss of something.
Yeah.
Only then is there a realization of, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I need to change my life.
Yeah.
And it's there where I say, right, let's do this.
Yeah. So we're running out of time, but I just want to know why.
Why what?
Why do people wait for something to happen before they make a change?
Because I'm in a comfort zone. When we're in a comfort zone, why would we change?
Yeah.
It's all nice and comfortable.
Yeah.
Now this event has pulled us out of our comfort zone, and our comfort zone is rattled.
Yes.
And now we are more than likely to make a positive change in our lives. We now want to come back into alignment.
Yes.
Like, geez, I've lived this life and now what's going on? Something is off.
Yeah.
And it's normally when you're at your lowest point in your life, the lowest, what can happen? It can only get better.
Yes, come on. So listeners, get out of your comfort zone. So we are excited to really just make such a massive impact in your lives. And that is why Mariska is here as well. You're doing such a great job with the people. Well done. And looking forward to our next one. Remember to follow us on our social media pages, and looking forward to seeing you using the app of Buzzing.